Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and Apple released iOS 27 Beta 1. iOS 27 Beta 1 is available around the world at the same time for developers on all iOS 27 supported devices, which is the same support as last year's iOS 26. That means it supports everything from the iPhone 11 to iPhone 17 Pro Max. Now, in order to install this, it's the same as any other developer beta. Just go into your settings, make sure you're signed up at developer.apple.com. If you're a public beta tester, that comes a little bit later in July. But you'll go to General, Software Update, wait for it to load, and then in your beta settings here, select iOS 27 Developer Beta, refresh, and you'll have the update. Again, for public beta testers or public release, it comes a little bit later. Now, as you may have already seen, it came in at 14.32 gigabytes. That's on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Apple released this alongside iPadOS 27, macOS 27 Golden Gate, watchOS 27, tvOS and HomePodOS 27, along with visionOS 27. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the build number and talk about what's new. So we'll go into our settings, then this time we can go into our software update, go to more details, and then tap on the version number. And as you can see, the build number is 24A5355Q. This is a very early beta, and of course there's some bugs and things, so we don't expect it to be perfect, but just keep that in mind. As far as a modem update, there is a new modem update coming from iOS 26.5, 26.5.1, or iOS 26.6 betas. Now, as far as new features, there's a lot more here to talk about than what was mentioned by Apple with their WWDC keynote, so I'll link all of the different changes in the description below so you can jump around to what's relevant to you. Now, first of all, the great news is this update is more about stability, responsiveness, speed, and reliability improvements. Yes, there's a lot of changes, but this is also updated quite a bit. Everything from smoothness, it's super smooth for an early beta, smoothness in scrolling, smoothness in the app library specifically. If we scroll down here, you'll see how smooth it is. And again, for a first beta, if I just swipe home, it's smooth compared to even previous versions. AirDrop and AirPlay are faster. It's also got smoother unlocking, so if we unlock the phone, swipe up, very smooth there. Apps load much faster, as do Safari start pages, and dictation gets a big update for accuracy. But as far as what you can see, let's start with Liquid Glass. The first thing is Liquid Glass gets an update. Not only is it a little bit better, it's easier to read what's behind it, but we can now adjust it. So if we go back into our settings under our main page here, if we scroll down and go to Appearance, within Appearance, you'll see that we have not only our wallpaper for light and dark mode and automatic, but under Liquid Glass, it's changed a little bit. We can adjust Liquid Glass from very much like glass all the way to basically eliminating Liquid Glass. You can see what it looks like by scrolling here and then switch it over to glass, and it shows you what it looks like. So you still get that refractivity, reflectivity, and everything looks pretty great, but you can adjust it however it works best for you. Also, there's new icons with more glass. One of them that's easy to see here is the Maps icon. So if I bring you in close here, you'll see it has a little bit more depth, and you'll see changes throughout. For example, we have a new Image Playground icon. If we scroll over here, some of the updates are things such as the App Store. The icons just look a lot better. If we go over here, you'll see Freeform gets a little bit of an update, and the icons are a little bit clearer this time around. Now, if we go and change the home screen here, you'll see we have a new paintbrush in the upper left. So we tap on that and we get the same sort of edits and customization options. If we go to customize, you'll see we have everything that's the same, but this time around, again, these icons have been updated. So if we compare them, maybe we'll switch to light mode here first. We'll customize, switch to default. You can see what it looks like here compared to iOS 26. So some of it's a lot more contrasty, such as the mail icon. You may not be able to see it in this video, but it's definitely a lot easier to see. And the shimmering effect around the icons has been removed as you're moving the phone around. So those are gone. If we switch to dark icons, again, it's a little bit better as far as contrast and being able to see that. And the best change has to do with the clear icons. So with the clear icons, you can see things a lot better. For example, take a look at the phone icon. It sticks off the page a little bit more. It has some shadowing behind it. It's just easier to see overall. Now also on the iPad, we can see that we have an undo button. So if we press and hold, you'll see I changed it to clear icons. Tap back, it goes back to dark mode icons. Tap forward, and we go back to clear. So we now have an undo and redo button. I haven't seen this on iOS yet, but it's present on iPadOS. Another change has to do with app menu bars. So if we go into music, for example, it's all consolidated now where search is all in the same bar. We saw this in iOS 26 with different apps such as the App Store and games, but we see that in things such as podcasts, music, and all throughout now. Depending on what app you're going into, you'll see it will change based on the app, but basically all the app icons are the same across the bottom as far as the menus, just like we have in the App Store here. So it's sort of just making everything more consistent throughout. Also, one thing that's great is Liquid Glass with the new keyboard has been forced on third-party apps as well. So if we go into a third-party app here, so within Facebook, if I was to post here, it's the same new keyboard that we've had in iOS 26 that's automatically available in iOS 27 on all apps. Also, there's a new battery icon. While it's not hugely different, there is a difference here, so I'm not sure you can tell, but you can see those side by side, iOS 26 on the left, iOS 27 on the right. There's just a slight change there. Another new change has to do with widgets. We now have new extra large widgets. You may have already seen this one for weather. And if we scroll home and swipe over, we have them for smart stacks that we have here. We have them for calendar, home, music, news, notes, photos, reminders, shortcuts, stocks, TV, and weather. All of them get this option for the extra large widget. Now, as far as the control center, there's a slight change here as well. So if we go into the control center and maybe we want to start a timer, we can do that and we have it jump right up into the dynamic island. So it looks a little bit different. And then again, it jumps into the dynamic island if you're activating it from the control center. So we'll swipe that away, but it looks a little bit different there. Also, notifications look a little bit different when they pop in. Now, I don't have any coming in right now. Let me see if I can trigger one. I sent myself a message and you'll see it sort of pops in from the left. So that's what some of the rumors said, and it looks like it was true. It pops in and then you can just swipe it away or tap on it for it to disappear. Also, if you have a song playing and you go into notifications, you can now swipe away the now playing menu. So you can swipe that off the screen if you don't want it there. When it comes to the wallpaper, there's some new updates here for customization and more. So if we go to edit this one, this is the new iOS 27 wallpaper, but you'll see the widget here, or the option at the top. There's a new option to combine not only the date, but also add the time to that. So we can add a time with an alarm or combine them together, and it looks a little bit different. So you'll see you have the option to combine it with more than one thing. So maybe stocks or something else, you can combine them together. Also, something else that's different is the wallpaper itself. For example, we have dynamic, which I have on currently, where it changes throughout the day. You have the standard one, which is sort of a dark bluish purple color. Then gold is the main one, or sort of this beige one. And then you have color options where it's fully customizable. So you can change it to whatever you'd like, change it throughout, go in here, that's the default one, change it to black if you'd like, maybe a bluish color or purple, whatever you'd like, whatever works best for you. But again, you can change it to whatever works best. And we can also generate our own wallpaper, but we'll talk more about that in a moment. We also have the option to extend a wallpaper that we've already set. So you'll see here's one from yesterday. It says generating spatial scene. We've had that before, but if we go in here, we can extend the wallpaper and it will actually fill it in just like it would before, but a little bit better using Apple Intelligence. Now, something that I know a lot of people will appreciate has to do with alarms and notifications. If we go into our settings, we'll go back here to the main page, scroll down to where we have sound and haptics, and you'll see that we have our ringtone volume. However, we now have some new options for alarms and timers and alerts and system sounds. We can have it automatically match the ringtone volume by default, but if we turn this off, we can now adjust either one of these. So if we want louder timers and alarms, we can do that, or alerts and system sounds. So maybe we want that a little bit louder. It will then make that louder on the overall phone when those come in. Maybe we want our ringtone turned way down or way up. So whatever works best for you is now available and fully customizable. Another thing to go along with alarms, if maybe you're setting an alarm, it will now recognize holidays and adjust for those and ask if you want it to actually trigger the alarm on those holidays. And if you travel, it will match the time zone. So it will support your time zone. So maybe you want to wake up at 9:30 a.m., but in a different time zone, it should shift to the time that's correct for that time zone. When it comes to AirPods, there's an update here. So if we go into our settings, it seems to connect twice every single time. But if we go into settings, go into our AirPods settings, you'll see that they've completely changed the menu here. So audio and routing, hearing health, everything's a little bit more organized. And if we continue to scroll down, the menu's not as long. And then we have an option for AirPods beta updates. Now, there's a feature that Apple announced, but we haven't seen yet, that I think has to do with being on the beta. So far, I don't have a beta on the AirPods. I don't believe it's available. But if we go into audio and routing, we should have an adjustable EQ. So again, I haven't seen this just yet. They showed a screenshot of it, but that's about it. So this is probably coming in a future update. And speaking of AirPods and music, music gets a little bit of a redesign. For example, if we go in here and then maybe go to the artist page, album art is a little bit different now for the artist page. So it looks different than before. So you'll see side by side, we have some new buttons here. We can star the song. We've got some information and we can play it. And then the actual album itself sort of gets an outline here. Apple has also said the album pages have been updated, but we're not seeing that just yet. And one of the best things is they're bringing back a landscape view. So if I go ahead and you'll see this song is playing, if I rotate to landscape, it actually changes to a landscape mode that would work great on a stand for standby mode as well. We're also seeing the same thing for podcasts. So I'm in primary technology. If we rotate sideways, you'll see if I swipe down, we have sort of the video over to the left. We can turn off the video, and this is what it looks like. So we've got a nice landscape mode that I hope they bring throughout for everything, not only for standby, but maybe they'll bring some new options back that we had some time ago with landscape modes. Also, if you're using song transitions with Auto Mix that was added last year, this has been updated to be better, more accurate, and sort of blend music a little bit better than it did before. One of the biggest updates to iOS 27 is a new Siri. Now, this in particular is a little bit different. So what we have to do first is instead of going to Apple Intelligence, we have to sign up for Siri and then join a waitlist. It's in beta and it's only available in specific areas. Now, we do activate it with the power sleep wake button. It looks a little bit different. You can see here. Or we can then pull down from the dynamic island and we have search or ask. We don't have type to Siri any longer, so if we double tap down here, there's no type to Siri. It's again, pull down from the dynamic island. So your control center's on the right, notifications are on the left, and pull down from the dynamic island to activate Siri. This does take some time to get used to though. Also, one thing is it's not available in the EU or China yet. That's coming later. And you can also customize how Siri sounds. So you'll see here we have expressive voice preview where we can change that. And if we go into voice 1, you'll see we have a couple options. Now it's not adjustable just yet. We have American, for example, and then we have pace and expressivity. We can't change these. We can only change from a female to male voice or female to male sounding voice. We'll go here.
Hi, let's find the right voice for you.
We'll go back.
Hi. Let's find the right voice for you.
So that's all we have here. You can change what you have as far as those two, but again, this is in beta, so this could change over time. Again, we have responses. We can speak back for voice input. We also have always show requests. In addition to this, we have messaging, and you'll see automatically send messages and other options we've had before. But the thing is, this gets much, much smarter this time around, and it integrates into more applications. So if we go and maybe ask it a question, what did you think of WWDC today? You'll see what it looks like here.
I don't have personal thoughts or opinions, but Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference, WWDC, on Monday, June.
So we can pull down and see more information about it. We also have Ask Siri here. We can press the plus button here, use the camera, photo, or files, or use the microphone, or shrink it back down. So again, we can use Siri just like you would before, and there's a bunch of other things here that I've asked already. This carries across to a new Siri app. You may have already seen it here, but we have a new Siri app similar to what we would have with ChatGPT, and then we can change it from a list view to a grid. And then again, I asked it what it thought of Zollotech or what it knew of Zollotech, WWDC, iPhone 16 features, which it got wrong. And it is a little bit slow from time to time, but again, keep in mind it's in beta. Most of it's on device, but when it's not on device, it uses Apple's private cloud compute with a custom Gemini model used directly from Google, but again, on private cloud compute. Now it can do quite a few different things. For example, they've integrated it into the camera. So if we go back into the camera here, you'll see that we have a new Siri option at the bottom. So this is sort of in the place of Apple Intelligence. So if we press and hold camera control, we go into the same dialogue here. So they've gotten rid of the old interface. And if we bring this in, let's flip it over. We'll try this again. I showed this in a previous video, but we'll tap on this and see what it thinks of this. It thought it was an iPhone 16 when it's an iPhone Air, so let's see what it says. And now it says iPhone 17 Air. So it's partially right because Apple calls it iPhone Air, not 17 Air. But again, you can ask questions about what you see. And then if we go into our options here, we can search. So if we get rid of this, you'll see we can search Google, TikTok, and eBay. So those are things coming soon. Again, we can search here, ask about the image, and ask more information. So again, it works just like visual intelligence, but it's built into the camera now. One thing we did not see is a customizable camera. So if we go back into camera, switch back to photos, it looks a little bit different with our different options here, but there were rumors that you would be able to customize this. Maybe that's coming in a future update. But you'll see here for depth, for example, we can customize it just like before with some menus, but it's not customizable to bring up into a menu and change how you would like just yet. So no options there for that just yet, but the Siri option is nice to have. Now Siri can do an awful lot more. So if we go into shortcuts, for example, we can create a shortcut directly through here. So if we go into new shortcut, we can describe it here. We can type to describe or just maybe say it. I need a shortcut that puts me in do not disturb and also turns the brightness down to 50% and turns off auto brightness. We'll do that, see what it can do here. There's some functionality it doesn't have just yet, but it should create it. It says finding actions, assembling your shortcut, and now it says it will turn on do not disturb, set brightness to 50%, and turn off auto brightness. So it says requires editor. We can tap play, and there we go. So we can change this here. We can see how it's created, and then also customize it and add additional options. We have the Apple Intelligence option here. We also get some pretty big updates with Image Playground. You may have already seen that new app that we have here. The app icon, it can do quite a few things. In fact, it created a few things for me on its own. So it just created this and it says, do you want to suggest images of you and people you know? Probably not, but that's something we can do. If we go to the plus button here, it's a little bit different. So now we can not only create an image, which is better and higher resolution in iOS 27, but we can then create a contact poster or a wallpaper. So if we tap on wallpaper, we can make it square, wallpaper, portrait, or landscape. So let's go ahead and try and create a wallpaper. Create a wallpaper similar to the iOS 27 wallpaper that incorporates blue and orange with maybe a little bit of liquid glass throughout. And let's see what it does. This is sort of the new status while it's waiting with liquid glass over the top. We'll give it a moment here. Again, this is on device typically, so it will take a moment. There we go. It created this new wallpaper and you can describe a change. I can even share it to photos. So you'll see here, again, keep in mind this is a beta, so it could be a little bit slow, but we could set the wallpaper. So if we go to set the wallpaper, let's bring it down. You'll see you can extend it just like that. Bring it out, extend it a little bit further. Maybe bring it like that. We'll extend. It says extending your wallpaper. This can take a moment. So again, different than the extend I showed you before. It's going to fill everything in. You'll see it filled everything in. We can extend everything, adjust liquid glass, add widgets, and some of the animations have been updated as well. So we can add this wallpaper and use this if we'd like, and tap done, swipe home, and we have this new wallpaper. I'll link it in the description below if you'd like to try it out. In addition to this, Apple Intelligence can do things such as suggestions in iMessages, suggestions in mail, call context. So when you're on a phone call, for example, if you're talking maybe to an airline, it can then bring up relevant information about a flight you may have already scheduled. So again, this is all on device. It has system-wide automatic proofreading, smart replies in your own style, intelligent file and folder suggestions, on-screen awareness, and new insights with Workout Buddy. So lots of new improvements here. Also, there's improvements when it comes to battery. Battery life is getting an improvement. Apple didn't say this specifically, but there's improvements to the overall information that you get. It's not quite what I would like, but if we go to battery, you'll see, give it a moment to load. It looks a little bit different. And if we go to battery usage, we've got a few different options here. So screen activity yesterday, or screen active, was 2 hours and 20 minutes, 1 hour and 41 minutes. Today, I've already had to charge again on the beta. But again, app and system activity, we have some additional information. And if we go into it, we can see even more information. So it is a little bit better as far as overall insights with things such as battery health and also power modes and things like that. But nothing here has changed a whole lot. It's basically the same, but just improvements. But Apple has improved battery. As they've said, hotspot is more efficient, so it's more power efficient if you have an N1 networking chip in a new iPhone. And there's also improved power management for Bluetooth if you have a lot of connections there. When it comes to connections, there's also some updates when it comes to Wi-Fi. If we go into Wi-Fi, we have a new option for connectivity assist. It says use cellular data in addition to Wi-Fi for a more reliable internet connection. iPhone keeps track of how much cellular data is used for connectivity assist. You can view your overall cellular data usage in cellular settings, and then you can reset the usage as well. In addition to this, if we go into my Wi-Fi, you'll see here under Wi-Fi type, it actually tells you what kind of Wi-Fi you're on. I have Wi-Fi 7, so I'm connected to 802.11be. Also, to go along with connectivity, Wi-Fi is much better in this update, where Apple has really refined it so that it jumps to new networks that it's familiar with and leaves the other networks faster and more reliably. Also, some more helpful information is that it's telling me it's still indexing. We don't really know how long it indexes in the past, but now we'll know from this. So anywhere from, well, a day at this point to maybe a week, as they've said. So we'll have to wait and see when this goes away. Weather also gets an update. The app itself has been redone a little bit. You can see here. So if we compare it to the previous update, we have it here where it says my location. It gives additional highlights here, as well as precipitation where we can adjust this. So if we scroll down, you'll see we have precipitation, conditions, so we can have sort of the standard view we had before, and then also wind. So it gives us more information, and everything else pretty much looks the same compared to all the other updates. So all of those menus look the same, but it is a nice little overview update. Apple also talked a lot about child safety. There's new child accounts, so if you're in your settings here and you go into Family, under Family you can see below it says new parental controls for iOS 27. Take advantage of simplified content management, age-based safety recommendations, and scheduling for your family. But I need to update other devices for this to work. So I'll have to try this a little bit later, but we do have different devices that are managed, and if they're under 18, you can change the way it's managed. Also, if you have a child account, you can migrate it to a new child account style, and then there's new options for things such as Ask to Buy, Apple Cash, Apple Card, as well as communication safety that will now block gore or violence in shared images and video. There's also a new option to approve new websites and time allowances and schedules, as well as new parental controls. So this is on top of what we had before. There's additional options now, and it looks a little different. There's also an update within messages. For example, if we go into a message, the new send dialog is a little bit different. So if I say, hello, how are you? And then maybe add a photo to go along with this. Maybe I'll send the wallpaper I created and it says delivered, and sometimes it will update here. There's the little status at the bottom, and now it's sent. If it fails to send, it can now auto send as well, and it won't take up a lot of power and just hang in the background. Also, we have an update within messages for a new app here. So we have different apps throughout. Of course, we have Genmoji and Image Playground with the new icons, but there's a new app called Drawing. If we go into Drawing, of course, we can just draw, maybe say hello. Hit the little check bar there, and then send that. So that's something that's been updated. It's now available. Again, Apple Intelligence carries across to this to give suggestions based on maybe if someone wants a meeting or something like that. It can suggest photos based on what you're talking about and make them easier to find if you just go to your photos. Safari gets a nice little update. So if we go into Safari and maybe we have a bunch of different tabs, Safari can now combine those tabs and organize them based on type. So if we go into our options here, we can have it organize tabs and then automatically create topics. So you'll see it created an iOS 27 topic automatically right there. One of my favorite features they introduced has to do with Safari here, where if we scroll down, you'll see an option for Notify Me. We can have it notify when anything changes. You'll see I've already created this, and I can have it check daily or weekly, you'll see here, or monthly. So if I want to be notified that something changed on this website around 1 p.m., if maybe a new update or something came out, it will then notify me if an update came out, and I don't have to leave the web page open. So it notifies me in the background with a normal notification. Now, when we're using FaceTime with iOS 27, we should be able to use the dual capture option like we do with the camera within FaceTime itself. So the front and rear camera at the same time on supported devices, but we're not seeing that feature enabled just yet. But let me know if it's working for you. I haven't seen it yet. Photos get some updates as well. One of the most impressive things Apple showed is some of the new editing features. If we go into this photo I took of the Apple Watch Ultra 3, give it a moment for it to download. We go to this new option for tools. We not only have cleanup, which is supposedly better, so let's try that out. Let's get rid of maybe this display that's over here, the studio display, once it's prepared. You'll see it's ready. We have an option for auto here, fast or high quality, but let's go ahead and see if we can get rid of this here in the corner and see if it can generate the wood that we have here. So it sort of recognized it. We'll tap cleanup. And again, it's supposed to be improved this time around. So let's see what it does. So I think it did a pretty good job. It got rid of it, extended some of the blur. It got rid of some of the blur. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good overall. Another thing they have is the option to extend outside the photo. So maybe we want to extend a little bit like this. Let's see what it does here. So we'll extend. Again, it will take a moment. So it extended outside of this. It's not perfect, but you get the idea. and we could try it again, but one of the most impressive things is reframe. If we go into reframe, it scans the photo. Now this photo was not taken on an iPhone, so if we drag here, we can change the perspective of the Apple Watch that's in the photo. Now it's not perfect, you'll see it's missing some of the band behind it, but let's try it from this angle and tap reframe and see what it does. It said there was an error. I'll try it again. It did this in the previous time I tried it as well. So it reframed it. It's not perfect. You'll see the band looks a little off, but it changed the perspective of the photo itself. So that's pretty impressive. And again, this is an early beta and it seems to work pretty well overall. So you can see what it looked like before I edited anything, original and everything else. So I thought that was pretty impressive. Another thing they've updated in Photos is the ability to share your photo albums. So we'll cancel here. If we go into the options in the upper right, and maybe we'll do a new shared album, and then we can name it maybe Watch. Sharing options here. We have anyone with a link or people you choose. So we'll just choose and then again scroll down, and we can now make this a temporary album. So it's a little bit buggy like I mentioned here, but let's go ahead and tap the check mark here. So now we're in the shared album. If we go to this option, we have oldest and newest. So some nice new sort options here. And then if we go into the options in the upper right, we can then go to add photos. And then again, we can add people. But if we go to share this, we can now share it with people on Android as well as Windows. So they can open this up just by copying and sending that link, and then also add people with additional options. Now, if we go into this photo, we now have the option to react using an emoji. So we can select an emoji here, maybe this, and then of course leave a little note about it if we want. So similar to what we had before with additional options here. Also within a photo, so this is one I created, but maybe we'll go to our options here in the upper right. We can ask Siri about it. We can adjust info. So if we go to maybe adjust time and date, adjust location, or if we go to the I here, again, we have Ask Siri. We also have the option here to add keywords now. So if we want to make this easier to search, that's available. Also within our photos, if we go into our options here, we can now sort by date added or date captured, and then you have your library view and things like that, as well as captured by me, not an album, and of course you have different view options here also. Within utilities, we also have captured by me, and some people are seeing identity documents. So if you have maybe a document, you have maybe a license or something else in here, it should show that. In the upper right, if we go to our options, there's a new option here as well to sync immediately. So if we go into sync immediately, we now have for today or off. If we go to for today, it will give you the amount of time remaining. Also, if we go into a slideshow, we have new options here as well. Again, from newest to oldest, and then captured by me. And again, all of those same options we have throughout the library now. The other thing that's been improved is search. So search should be much better. I haven't tried it out yet. It's still indexing, so I'll wait until that's finished, but it should be much better. Next, let's go into notes. Within notes, if maybe we select this, swipe over, we now have the option to copy as Markdown. So then we can paste it as Markdown as well. Press and hold, paste, and you'll see it in Markdown. Within here, you can also edit handwritten notes with Siri. The next one has to do with passwords. If we go into passwords, you'll see under security, I have 383 security warnings. Many of us don't have the time to actually take to switch every single password, and now passwords will do it for you. And you'll see it says, get started, automatically fix 34 passwords. It will go out and fix them. You can deselect them if you'd like, but it's something it can do on its own. Another thing that's coming soon has to do with the phone. Now this could be carrier dependent, but there should be a new option for cellular that we can add our cellular plan to another phone and use the same eSIM or SIM card at the same time. This would be great for testing out different phones, switching from maybe an iPhone Air to an iPhone 17 Pro Max or an older one. So again, this isn't in beta 1 that I can find, but hopefully it will be here soon and then I'll try it out. But again, it could be carrier dependent and may need support from your carrier. Calendar also gets an update. Now, some people were saying there was a new view here. I'm not really seeing much of a difference here, but we do have view options, of course, for stacked, detailed, and lists. So I'm not seeing much of a change there, but apparently we can create calendar events with Apple Intelligence from different things it understands throughout the OS or just using natural language. So we can try that. We'll just pull down here. So we'll do this. Create a calendar event for WWDC 2027, maybe on the Monday around June 8th next year. Said, would you like to schedule WWDC 2027 for Monday, June 7th or Monday, June 14th? Let's try June 14th. There we go. And then it created it. So that's something it can do on its own just based off of context. I've connected to my CarPlay device so I can show this with you. Of course, we have the new Siri icon where we can interact there. I'll show you in a moment, but we also have some new wallpaper. So if we swipe over, go to settings, and then we'll scroll down here. We've got wallpaper. Within wallpaper, here are all of the new ones. So we have sort of all of the variants of what we get with iOS 27, and of course a few blank ones. So if maybe we want red, we can switch to that, but we'll just leave it alone for now. In addition to this, under the display, we've got smart display zoom. Nothing's really changed there. And then of course, live activities and things that we got from iOS 26. So let's go under appearance here and we'll switch to automatic, where sometimes it's always dark and other times it's not. So that gives you an idea of what it looks like. And we also get an update if we go into music. You'll see they've changed the menu so it's closer to the left, closer to the driver, which is really helpful. And we have a new now playing area. So if we tap on this, it brings us to the normal menu we had before, but you'll see that it looks a little bit different. So again, we can switch through everything. They've done the same with podcasts as well. So if we go into podcasts, again, it's got the same sort of look. Again, Siri works in this a little bit differently. So if we go here, we've got all of the things we had before or a new conversation. What time does the Apple Store open in South Park in Charlotte? You'll see here it pulled up what you wanted and just like you would expect. Now also if we go in and maybe play a song, so we go into this song, we can now scrub throughout the OS. Now there's no pinch to zoom yet on maps for some reason, but they have updated things such as they've fixed wireless CarPlay connectivity and they've also improved GPS when navigating. So some nice improvements here. Also, developers can now stream audio and things using AirPlay. So maybe if you're in a parked car, you can then watch video. This is something we thought was with iOS 26, but it looks like it's part of iOS 27. One thing we're not seeing yet is smarter home options. Now that's device dependent, depending on what you have. If I switch maybe to Office here, you'll see I have a camera. It will now work in 4K, so that's a nice upgrade, but it will also work with notifications, understanding maybe if someone's walking up with a box, for example, such as UPS, and then let you know that. But instead of giving you tons of notifications for multiple cameras, it can condense them and recognize that all together, again, all on device. You'll see the menu here has changed also. Now we also have enhanced flyover within Maps. Now they showed this on Apple Vision Pro, but everything just looks a little bit more crisp. The overall look of it is a little bit better, and you can see, of course, all your different modes and everything else. But there's not a whole lot of changes here other than that a newer flyover looks a little bit better, especially if you're using that on a larger interface. Health also gets a little bit of an update. So if we go into the Health app here, you'll see that the summary looks pretty much the same, but again, the tab bar on the bottom has changed. And if maybe we go to Browse, we'll go to Browse on both, you'll see it looks a little bit different. There's now large icons for each one of these different options. And if we scroll down, of course, you can add your health record. But again, if we go into something such as maybe activity again, they look pretty much the same still. However, they have added something to health, and that has to do with perimenopause and menopause. It can now track that. And also you can now run it in landscape. So you'll see we can turn that again, bringing landscape back. Many of these things hint at maybe a different interface update with landscape and everything. Now, just like every year, Apple showed off some new accessibility features a few weeks before iOS 27 was shown off at WWDC, and this year we get some updates with things such as VoiceOver. So within VoiceOver, it's now updated where it can describe on-screen information better and things such as your surroundings, and we have VoiceOver recognition. Within VoiceOver recognition, we have screen recognition, image descriptions, and then of course we can see things such as live recognition, where it understands what's live on the display, and then we can use buttons such as maybe the action button to recognize what's on the screen. So those have been added in iOS 27. The same is true with magnifier. So again, if we go back here, if we swipe over and go into magnifier, you can now use this with Ask, for example, what's on your display. We have some additional options for activity, and then we have settings, and within settings, we have options for things such as contrast, flashlight, focus lock, and capture mode. And using voice control, you can also tell it to zoom in or out. Now within voice control, Apple updated this so it understands natural language better. Now I don't think it's working just yet as I've tried it out a little bit. Of course it works with things such as going back to your home screen. Go home. Go home. And then it went home. We can sometimes try and see if it will open up different things it should understand, such as open the app in the bottom right. This will work in the future. Apple gave an example of opening up maybe an orange folder, and these are things it should recognize. But again, it seems like it's not working just yet, but it is early on and we're in beta at this point. Also, they've updated Accessibility Reader. It's now a little bit better as far as how it handles more complex layouts, such as multiple columns, images and tables, and it has on-demand summaries and built-in translations too on your own videos. So that's something it can actually translate in real time using Accessibility Reader if that's something you want to use. There's also been an update with subtitles and captioning throughout the OS. This is now system-wide, and it can show captions within anything, so maybe your own home videos, for example. So you'll see audio transcriptions, and of course we have different options and apply across apps. So let's turn this on and maybe try one of my videos. So you'll see this is a video I made. It's a short video and we have the caption option. We can turn it on here and let's turn the volume down and see if we have captions in real time. So there we go. So the captions are working in real time on my own videos without doing anything. Within Touch, we also have an update with touch accommodations. So you'll see we can set this up and it says customize how the screen responds to your touch. The following screen will present several dots. Tap each dot once it appears. So this just helps you better customize it for how you would touch the display and use it throughout the day. Also, if you have a hearing device, so maybe you have a made for iPhone hearing device, it will now hand off between devices. So maybe you want to switch from iPhone to Mac to iPad, it should now seamlessly hand off. Also, name recognition is something we've had for quite some time, but it will now support over 50 languages. There's also a new API for developers to allow for sign language interpretation to be added to a FaceTime call, and also Sony access controllers are now supported, so you can use one or two even to play a game. Find My also gets a little bit of an update where it says flexible location sharing, share your location for a custom duration or until a set date and time. Pause sharing with people individually whenever you want. Also, the device menu looks a little bit different, as does the menu throughout, and it's a little bit laggy in the beta. Also, if we go into maybe the App Store here, so we'll go over here. If I go to install an app I've never installed before, the new purchase app dialog is a little bit different. That also carries across to if maybe you're purchasing something as well, but I don't have anything to try that with just yet. If we go into the Apple Wallet app, within Wallet, we now have the option to create a pass. If we create a pass, it says create passes for tickets, memberships, and more with visual intelligence, or enter pass details manually. We can tap continue and then capture it with Apple Intelligence, or again, create it manually here, and then choose a pass template. So maybe you want a membership at a gym, something like that. You can then fill in all the details so you can quickly access it directly in the Wallet app. Also, if you use the Journal app, there's a small update, and within the Journal app, there's a small update, and you can see here when you open it, you get a splash screen that says reflect with writing prompts. Generate dynamic writing prompts to help you reflect and write more. Also, create richer entries. Tell a fuller story with more attachments, edge-to-edge photos, and the exact time of day. So within our options within Journal, you'll see that we have an entry date, and then we can change the time like it said before. And then if we go here, we have this option where we can create a writing prompt. So we'll tap continue. It says to get personalized prompts, start writing or add a photo or drawing. WWDC 2026 was today, and they introduced iOS 27. They introduced a lot of other things, but Siri was one of the biggest things that was new. Now, one thing that's really hard to get used to is pulling down from the left for notifications or the lock screen, and then not pulling down from the center. So again, that activates Siri. So far, I haven't seen an option to change that, but that's what's been updated here. Now, as far as bugs and bug fixes, well, they've fixed a few different things. You'll be happy to hear that the wallpaper bug is finally fixed. There's no change whatsoever. So it looks like there's no change. I've tried this on multiple wallpapers, so we won't have to talk about that again. They've also fixed the widget crash bug. I've shown this before, so if we press and hold, tap on the widget, tap off of the widget, tap the pages below, it then opens like you would expect. So those things have been fixed. Also, badges showing near new email have been updated to be more accurate. So that's something that's fixed. And also visited places in Maps is more accurate if you're using that and syncs properly across devices. Also, HomeKit accessories now pair faster. So lots of different things have been fixed in this update, along with the smoothness and everything else. Now I've switched back to the dynamic wallpaper that changes throughout the day. And if we go over to our calendar, let's talk about iOS 27 Beta 2. Now, based on what we've seen in the past, it could be a couple weeks until we see that. So maybe around June 22nd or even the 29th. And then typically in July, we get the public beta. So we'll see beta 2, maybe beta 2.5, and then the public beta. We just don't know at this point. And then, of course, we'll have betas throughout the summer with a public release sometime in September, usually around the iPhone 18 launch. Also, we've got iOS 26.6 Beta 1 out right now, so Beta 2 could be as soon as this week or possibly next week. Hopefully it's next week, as we've got a lot going on with iOS 27 and other betas, but we'll have to wait and see what Apple does there. If you're wondering if you should install iOS 27 Beta 1, well, I typically would not recommend it on your main device. So far, it seems to be fairly stable. I have had a few crashes, and you'll see that at least it's telling us now that it's indexing. So if we go back out, you'll see it says indexing in progress. This can take days or weeks even sometimes, or a week. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here, but at least it's letting us know, as at this point, we can't really judge battery life with this until this is finished. Now, as far as installing it, I wouldn't recommend it on your main device, but if you have a backup, then you could try it out, but just keep in mind you'll need a computer in order to downgrade. I would probably wait for the public beta. When it comes to overall storage size, many people have been asking about that. Let's go ahead and take a look. So on the left is iOS 26.5.1, on the right is iOS 27. You'll see iOS is significantly larger on iOS 27 at 32.59 gigabytes. Most of that is Apple Intelligence at 16.37 gigabytes, but iOS is 16.22 gigabytes. So this is pretty typical. It's a bigger update, more Apple Intelligence, but of course this could change throughout the betas. When it comes to system data, I was hoping they'd get rid of some of this, as this is typically cache data and you don't really need to see it, but it's going up and down as needed. But again, just keep in mind that it should go up and down. It's completely normal, and it shouldn't use up so much storage that you can't install apps. When it comes to performance, well, you've seen it throughout the video. It lags far less than iOS 26.6 or 26.5.1. Things like ProMotion seem to be super smooth this time around, although variable like we would expect, and different effects seem to be much better. Just going over here and then swiping up and zipping back home, that's pretty unheard of as far as the smoothness goes. So this is definitely a refinement here. When it comes to battery life, like I said, we'll have to wait for it to stop indexing to check that for sure. But if we go to battery health, I'm at 100% capacity with 102 cycles on my main phone here. And again, when I installed this, we only have 4 hours and 58 minutes of screen active time, 2 hours and 10 minutes of screen idle time, and I've used 87% of the battery, and you can see how much I've charged it. So just keep in mind it's going to take a little while to know what battery life is like. We'll talk about it in the weekend follow-up video. As far as benchmarks, well, it is indexing, so it's not really fair, but let's go ahead and run it anyway. Benchmarks completed, and like I mentioned before, it's still indexing. The phone is quite warm. We've got 3,731 for single core, 9,459 for multi-core. I would expect this to go up once it finishes indexing, and of course we'll talk about it in the weekend follow-up video. Like I mentioned, the overall heat is a bit intense, so again, it's indexing, it's going to use a lot of power, and I wouldn't recommend installing it just yet if you're worried about any of that. And so that's everything with iOS 27 Beta 1. Of course, if I find more features, we'll talk about it in a different video, but let me know what you think of iOS 27 so far in the comments below. I'll link the wallpaper I mentioned earlier in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.